Hello and welcome to another episode of Spillin the Beans, podcast brought to you by Given Beans, talking all things Barra soccer. And as per usual, there's plenty to talk about as we actually had a football game this weekend, which feels like a while since we had one. Mind you, 10 minutes into this podcast, we'll probably wish that we didn't. So we'll dive straight into chewing the fat on that one. As per usual, I've got Dave Ingham with me. Good evening, Dave. How are you?
I'm annoyed, Jonny. You've made me watch the Crewe goals again for the pod, and I was trying to banish them to the far recesses of my memory, but no, you've dredged it all up again, haven't you? Never mind. Here we go.
Yeah, I mean, we'll jump into it. I thought there were so many things in them goals that have just been just constant thing that's haunted our season. It's worth breaking them down a little bit to see what's going on. So we'll do that for sure. And first time caller, long time listener, and once described by Bean's forefather Phil Mack as the real Lord of Walney, Matthew Burns. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks, mate. Yeah, very well. Very pleased to be making my debut on the show. And I do dispute John Woodcock as the Lord of Walney, and we're taking steps to challenge that formally.
Yeah, is he still hanging around, or is he kind of darted now? He used to live right in the waterfront, didn't he, Channel Side?
Yeah, just down the road from his flat. Yeah, he's got some sort of pony job in government, and he's still masquerading as the Lord of Walney, unfortunately.
Yeah, those titles, eh? Wasn't his wife or partner or something? She kind of editor of Spectator, New Statesman, something like that.
Yeah.
Interesting. Anyway, let's get on to the actual football stuff.
That was the week that was. It's over. Let it go.
Right, so go on then, Dave. Just before you do, though, I think we mentioned on the podcast last week that we seem to have this constant back and forth with Crewe, where we'll win one, lose one, win one, lose one. And in every one of them games, apart from the last one at Holker Street where we won 1-0, one team has scored 3 goals. So it was true to form in that sense. Dave, how do you summarise it?
You know, we walked through the turnstiles. We had that kind of almost like an opening day of the season, bit of optimism, bit of spring in the step, thinking, this time it could be different. And then after 20 minutes, we're 2-0 down. We've conceded 2 soft goals in the kind of the worst kind of manner that we've been doing for all the rest of the season. And then we're all stood looking at each other saying, is this it? Is this the Gallagher era? I mean, to be fair to him, I would imagine what they were doing on the training ground, it wasn't practicing defending like that, because if that was the plan, then he'll end up getting sacked quicker than Michael Jolly did. But I'm absolutely sure that wasn't the plan. And once again, it was individuals letting the manager down, not taking responsibility for marking the man, not having the desire to win a header, win a second ball, make a clearance, smash someone in the middle of the park to stop them breaking away. It was just bad defending all round, from the middle of the park, and into the defence, and probably the goalkeeping as well. And it was just the lack of desire to keep a clean sheet, and it was just thoroughly depressing. And the third one was even worse, because we had actually begun to peg them back. We'd got them back to 2-1, and you're thinking, Crewe might be a bit vulnerable. They conceded that late equaliser against Harrogate the previous week. Maybe psychologically they're thinking, oh, here we go again. But no, 10 minutes later, we give them a third, and then for the second half, it was just comfortable for them, wasn't it? They just sat back and said, right, come on then, try and break us down, and we didn't have it in us to do it. So, not a good start, but the only way is up.
Yeah, through all of our talk, Burnsy, of issues with strikers and goals, really kind of defensive horror shows seem to be the one consistent thing across the course of the season, and that game on Saturday certainly seemed to example that. Do you think it's a personnel problem, or a kind of system problem, or a way of playing? How would you kind of put your finger on it?
I think it's a combination of a few things for me. I also had the displeasure of going back through the highlights, but we'd had a few in the Cheshire Inn, haven't we? So it was probably for the best, so I could check my facts. But look at the first goal. I'll give Olga Tuash on Raglan. I think he's a top player, great header of the ball, but just total sort of lack of focus, really, to be heading the ball back into the danger area, really. And to be fair to their play, slotted away pretty well. So that's poor. But I think it's a second goal for me that's really telling. And there were a lot of patterns of play that were similar. You look at who was at fault for it, and it was Shipley getting stretched out and pulled out. And then where he should have stuck with his man. And then at the back stick, it's Whitfield basically not tracking his man. And Whitfield is an attacking player. He's not a wing back. Do you know what I mean? I know we've talked about this at length, but I fundamentally disagree with a 3-5-2 with wing backs when wing backs are very hard to find, and we're playing either someone who's defensively minded who can't get forward, or attack minded and can't get back. Just don't know what the position is. So yeah, I think for me, the formation and the players in the formation is a key problem, and that played out a number of times through the game. The third goal, just a total write-off. That was just absolutely shocking, really. So I do think there needs to be questions asked about that formation and the players within it, and why we seem obsessed with three at the back when we don't seem to have the players elsewhere on the pitch that facilitate it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm the same. I kind of pull my hair out watching Ben Whitfield trying to track back and defend, for so many reasons, not just... I love Ben Whitfield. I'd probably argue he's one of the best players ever to wear a Barrow shirt in terms of his, contributions, in front of goal, and, what he's done since he's been here since we rejoined the Football League, and the fact he's constantly returned. But, yeah, and then also for me, it's just how standoffy the likes of Jackson and Shipley are. I mean, you mentioned that ball coming into Raglan, and it does. It's unfortunate. He kind of gets a side head to it. His position's not particularly great, but at that point, the other two people in that back three are kind of yards off the attacking Crewe players, Dave, and it's just becoming a constant issue where we just seem to be nowhere near, the opposition's attack when it comes to shutting down chances.
Yeah, it just looked a bit ragged, especially on, as you say, on that left-hand side of the back three, and Jackson at left wing back, and you'd have thought that maybe we would have had the problems down the right-hand side with Freddie Anderson being the new member of the team. But I thought he looked relatively assured compared to the rest of them. I thought he looked comfortable on the ball. There was a couple of times when he was bringing the ball out of defence. It was kind of reminiscent of what Sam Hurd did in the Everett team. Nice and comfortable getting us up the pitch. But the rest of them just I don't know. It just falling to pieces in front of our eyes, wasn't it? And as we kind of look towards this Saturday, you think, well, Canavan's still suspended. Do you put both of the new signings in the back three, or whether you do change the shape? I think that's a great point that Matt's made there about, we're not getting the best out of Ben Whitfield. He's not a wing back, he's a winger. So you either change the formation to get the best out of your best players, or you kind of try and shoehorn him in further up. And like when Pete Wild was here, he kind of almost played him as a second striker rather than did play him as a wing back sometimes, but he would also play him as a second striker. And I think when we had that purple period in the December, the high point of Wildism, as I keep saying it was, he was that second striker. So maybe that's an option, but reinforcements are coming through the door up front, aren't they? So, yeah, maybe back to the drawing board this week on the training ground, and we'll see what happens against Crawley.
Yeah, and just a quick one, Dave, as well, because he's been in the news this week with an offer apparently from MK Dons. Talk about Will Stanway, of course. Third goal, do you think it's harsh to single him out? He looks like he's flapping around a little bit in there and not really knowing what he's doing.
It's difficult, isn't it, with goalkeepers, because they are the most vulnerable position on the pitch, aren't they? I don't know. I struggle sometimes to, unless they drop across, or whether they're getting beat at the near post. I mean, maybe even the first one. I mean, the first one was a shot from distance. He kind of had time to get across it and maybe push it away. I don't know, but I always find it a bit tricky to apportion blame to goalkeepers, because in an ideal world, they're called into action very rarely. But unfortunately, Will's been a busy boy a lot of the times this season, hasn't he? So he's he's under pressure maybe a lot more than he'd wish to. But I think in terms of attracting another offer or getting himself a move or kind of getting his own personal ratings heading in the right direction, he needs another kind of game that he pulled out against Walsall sometime soon. That'd be good for everyone's morale, I think.
Yeah, and I think as well, watching that goal back, it goes quite deep, the corner initially, doesn't it? And I think Harper's the guy who's closest to making some kind of clearance on that, and he's kind of nowhere near. So I think you can take your pick, on who to single out on that. Certainly probably seems unfair as some of the criticism that's probably gone Stanway's way.
Oh yeah, we should have won the header on the far post. We should have picked up the header when it dropped in the 6-yard box.
Yeah,
when it's that close to him, then it's difficult to blame Stanway, that sort of thing. But there's 2 or 3 things that have gone wrong before him, I think.
Yeah, Burns. Dave mentioned there about Anderson, and one thing I kind of jotted down for the podcast tonight was: were there any positives to take away from Saturday? And he did look like one.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, right from the off, I think he put himself into a tackle very early and did well out of it, and then those line breaking runs that he made did actually change the pace of the game at various times, and it just brought in other players around him. So I was really impressed with that. You can see he's a bit raw, can't you? But there's talent there, and he's not afraid to get stuck in. So I think that's a positive. I think I am a bit glass half full, me, which is rare for a Barra fan, isn't it? But I also think there were some positives going forward, and I am a bit of a Fletcher fan, me. And we actually had a crack with some of Charlie McCann's family at half time, didn't we? Big fan of McCann. If we can get him on the ball more, which we did at times, we knocked it around well, but we just seemed to struggle then actually making the significant moves with it, or having anyone up front who could finish. So and it's always a big if, isn't it, when you concede like goals like that? But all 3 of those thoroughly avoidable. You just don't concede 2 of those, and it's a very different game, don't you? So I have faith, that we can push on, and that we have quality in the squad. But for whatever reason, we're not on it in terms of focus, and we're not getting the best star players. Today's point about width.
Yeah, definitely, and it's a really good point, Dave, because I walked away from the ground as well, trying to kind of pick up a mood a little bit. And one thing, kind of inadvertently, I took as a positive was that Gallagher and Welsh got to see exactly what we've been struggling with for so long. I'm thinking back to Wings' first game, where I think we beat Batters Grimsby 3-0, did we? And everything was great again, and it's just a manager issue. We've solved that problem, and everything's going to be fine. I mean, this was a good opportunity for them to see something they've not seen over the course of the last 2 weeks on the training ground, exactly where we're struggling in games, and almost kind of things you think we should be able to kind of sort out, really.
Yeah, I think what was refreshing was listening to his post-match on Radio Cumbria, and I think some of the texters were saying, "Oh, that was a good goal he scored, and there was positives to take, and this, that, and the other." And I was kind of thinking, well, sort of short measure positives. Yeah, Fletcher getting 3 goals in 3 is a good thing, but apart from that, it was pretty thin gruel, I thought. But you could tell by the tone of Gallagher's kind of post-match that he wasn't happy at all with what he'd seen, and I would imagine he was, in no uncertain terms, told them that the standards that he sets and expects from his team are completely different to what he saw in that first half. And and he made the great point. He said the second half, yeah, we had the possession and we were knocking it about, but Crewe just let us do it. They sat in a shape and said, "Come on, break us down." So he wasn't fooled by the fact that we were stroking it around in inoffensive areas, and we doing some nice little passing moves that weren't really getting anywhere. He saw completely through that. So I would imagine they've had a bit of time in front of the video screen in terms of pointing out exactly what went wrong, and again it'll have been drilled into them that the transfer window is open, and the board, to their credit, look as though they are backing in with some new signings. So if I think we all identified up the top of the pitch as being the main problem area, but I think if he needs to go and reinforce even further at the back or in the middle or wherever else he feels he needs it, then I think he'll probably get that support. And he's got to be ruthless. It's his job at the line. I kind of flippantly said at the start there that, you know, if we keep defending like that first 20 minutes, then he'll be out before in shorter order than Jonny did. Our board don't hang around. If they think that something's not going right, they kind of step in and take action, don't they? So pressure's on already.
Yeah. Let's move on to that, because obviously that was the big news that came out that did help lift the spirits a little bit, was the signing of Danny Rose from Grimsby, Dave. That seems like great news, doesn't it? I think that's been pretty much welcomed by everyone apart from Grimsby fans.
Yeah, I think when you're 19th in League Two, I think signing someone like Danny Rose is pretty much as good as it gets, to be honest, because he's got a good solid track record. I know he's been injured a bit this season, but he's not got a history of long time on the sidelines with injury. He's not a complete crock. I think he's 500 career appearances or something like that. And I think I read something on X which really cheered me up when someone said he scores goals and he's a massive shithouse. And I thought that's exactly the sort of player I can get right behind. So hopefully he does both of those elements of his game to his best for us, and he has a good career in the Barrow shirt. Yeah. Good. I think we were actually in for him before he signed for Grimsby, so I don't know whether his name's been on one of the stray tabs of the Barrow Index at the back of the spreadsheet, something, and they've just kind of tidying it up and seen he was still available. But no, I think for the position that we're in and the budget that we've got, then that's as good as it gets. I know some people expect us to sign a Champions League level squad with our I think it's 14th or 15th best budget in League Two, but yeah. Good signing.
Yeah. I mean, you mentioned system before, Burnsy. How does this play out then? Because Fletcher 3-3, he looked like he was playing like a lone striker, I think, on Saturday. It does that now kind of force kind of two at the top back in with Fletcher alongside Rose. Gordon's out for 4 to 6 weeks, I think. So one of the big complaints from Grimsby fans was how, because of the system, Artell was playing with a lone striker, and it just weren't favouring Danny Rose. So it seemed strange to bring him in at Barrow as a lone striker.
Yeah. In short, yeah. And it's one of these things about the modern game, isn't it? The peppification of football in recent years. Like, what's wrong with two up top? And I know there is a bit of a pivot now to putting a big lad up front, but for me, it's an absolutely valid formation, but there seems to be an obsession with 3 at the back, 5 in midfield, complicated formations. But I feel like, no, I'm not a massive League Two nerd and watched him any clips on YouTube, but he's one of those players who stuck out when he's played against us. And you think about the type of player Fletcher is, the type of player Rose is, and you think, well, that feels like quite a traditional partnership that could work. I think what we do need to do, though, is make sure that we're getting the supply to him. Like I was saying before, there's some good spells at times at Crewe, but how do we make sure we break the lines? And I do think Whitfield is key to that. So for me, we do need to be looking at 2 up top, better support up front. Whatever we do at the back, I don't know. I'm not going to say 4-4-2. It'd be that old fashioned, but I do think going 2 up top is the right thing for us. And if we need to switch it up partway through the game, we can do. Do you know what I mean? If we want to play 5 in midfield, then we can do. So that is definitely something I'd like to see, particularly with a couple of games that we've got coming up. I know Oldham are on a decent run, but Saturday, why not at home? Needs to get the fans back in, don't we?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's hard to kind of tell on Saturday, because obviously you don't really get the exact formation, but I imagine it was some kind of version of 2 at the top with Conor Mahoney play in and try and support Fletcher in some senses. But as you kind of see with Conor Mahoney, it just drifts into his natural space anyway. So if it's 2 at the top, it's got to be them 2 kind of natural strikers, and Dave, I suppose, who can really kind of cement themselves and cement their position, so that midfield starts to kind of read where these players are going to be and how they can start to kind of get some synergy.
Yeah, well, I mean, Fletcher's what, 3 goals and an assist in the last 3 games. That's that's all you can ask for in terms of a striker, and whether it's someone who kind of got shoved up top as a makeshift measure or not. He obviously knows where the goal is, and that goal that he scored against Crewe was a good striker's instinct. He followed up a rebound. He wasn't, kind of stood with his hands on his hips at the edge of the area, just kind of watching what was happening. It's bodies in the box. It's following up rebounds. It's picking up second balls. It's very basic stuff. But it's funny, I was listening to Dean Saunders on a podcast this morning, and he was kind of going through how he used to target getting 20 goals. And he'd say, right, well, I'll get 3 penalties, and I'll get 3 kind of near post corners, and I'll get a couple of really ricochet, scruffy goals, and I might score this. And you're thinking, well, a goal's a goal, isn't it? It doesn't have to be a 20-yard perler into the top corner. If you're following in like a rebound from a goalkeeper, or hitting one off a defender's backside or something, really don't care. Just get it in the net. That's all I care about. Do that.
Yeah. Or if you're Danny Rose and you can sit on your arse, trap it between your 2 feet and lift it over your head. That's certainly one of the highlights coming out of the Grimsby camp. Let's cheer ourselves up then by listening to how depressing things are at Crawley and move on to the game this weekend.
Hello, you've reached the offices of Given Beans. All our Beans operatives are busy getting it forward at the moment. Please leave your message after the beep.
Hello guys, this is Ben Blackmore here, giving you the lowdown on everything Crawley Town ahead of our mammoth trip up to Barrow on Saturday. Well, how has your season been since we last met? It has been an absolute disaster, if I'm completely honest. Since we last met, we've only won 2 games of association football, both coming against 10 men at home, with victories over Bristol Rovers and Fleetwood. So only 2 wins since we last met, since our game at the Broadfield Stadium on the 27th of September. So 2 wins, which means we are now on a 12-game all-competition run without a win, stretching back to the 8th of November. If in truth be told, it has been a complete disaster. Really, really poor goals conceded. Seemingly got the feeling of not being able to win a game within the building, which is a real problem. We've sunk right down the table. We're 22nd now, basically on the virtue that Harrogate have also had a similar run, and Newport, albeit have improved recently, obviously were quite a few points behind from the start of the season as well. So we're just about hanging in there at the bottom and desperately need a run of results to pick up, which comes at an important time now, obviously travelling to you guys who are clear of the drop zone, but not massively clear of the drop zone, and hopefully a team that we should be aspiring to get ahead of at the minute. And then we also have Harrogate at home next Saturday, which could be a relegation 6-pointer at a very early stage of the season. The current vibes around the fan base, though, however, is pretty optimistic. Due to the January transfer window, we've had 10 signings, no less than 10 signings, including 3 players that were part of our promotion season a couple of years ago from League Two, including goalscorer Danilo Orsi, who scored 20-odd goals for us. Clyde Lolos was also brought in from Peterborough, albeit he is suspended now after being sent off on his second debut at the weekend. And also Kellen Gordon signed from Notts County, having played at right back for us during that campaign. There's also rumours of Ronan Darcy re-signing on loan from Chesterfield. So three, potentially 4 players back in the building from our promotion season. So albeit we're in a really bad spot at the minute, the vibes are okay, to be fair. The atmosphere on Saturday was pretty strong. We've got some players in that we know that can do the job. We're part of that famous season. If you throw in Jay Williams and Dion Conroy as well, that's potentially 4, 5, 6 players that were part of our promotion season that could form our starting 11 for the season ahead, which is pretty good. You know, those guys know how to win matches. They know how important it is. They know the vibe around the club. So the feelings for the rest of the season is pretty unique, really. There's still a lot of belief in the manager. We've signed all these new players, but obviously we desperately need to get out this rut of losing games. And hopefully it comes, soon. We travel to Walsall on Tuesday, Harrogate at home. It does feel like a really important 3 games for us. So the feelings for the rest of the season is optimism, and hopefully we can put a bit of a run together and sort of haul ourselves out of that kind of relegation scrap, albeit nobody really has any true confidence in doing that. And with signing 10 players, it's going to take a bit of time to, for the players to gel and come together. A lot of them know how the manager plays, but there are some new signings. Jonny Russell signed from Northern Ireland. He's pretty lively at left wing back. And we've also signed Lewis Richards from Bradford, which looks a tasty addition to the defence. Odiamo as well from Newport County seems a pretty good addition, had a good game on Saturday as well. So there's plenty of new signings all to gel together. In terms of going outs, there hasn't been too many major players that have left yet. However, that is to be expected for the rest of the January transfer window. So 10 players signed. It's really important that these guys gel and hopefully add a bit of quality into the team. Within those 12 games of that run, we've actually played quite well in several games. Swindon away, we lost 1-0, but played well. Barnet away, we played well, lost 2-1. However, keeping clean sheets is a real problem, particularly from set plays, crosses, corners are very much our Achilles heel. So if you guys can get the set pieces right, you have a serious chance of scoring goals. Thoughts on the game on Saturday? Like I mentioned, if Barrow can get those set pieces right, it's a long way to go. Our signings have still got to gel together. It's still looking a bit ambitious for us to get a result at this stage. I think the focus will largely be on Harrogate at home as a kind of game to hopefully kind of reinvigorate our season. But if we were able to dig in, hopefully grab a point, I think would probably be our best shout. And you never know, Danilo Orsi might start scoring again, and hopefully maybe a couple of more debuts from those 10 players that have signed. Gordon could play right back. Richards could come into the defence. However, I feel like it might come a bit too soon. Barrow, it's a must win for you guys, really, in terms of keeping that gap between you and the kind of relegation scrappers. And I know that we haven't really got a great record at your place. I think we came there before, lost 4-0, which was a terrible afternoon for us. I don't think it'll be that comprehensive. However, I'd lean towards maybe a 1 or 2-0 win for the hosts on Saturday. I certainly hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping our new signings can gel and the manager can get us out of this position, but it's looking very optimistic early on. Best of luck for the game, guys. Safe travels up to all the Crawley fans. Probably be about 50 or 70 of them. It's a long old journey. I don't envy them. Best of luck for the rest of the season, and hopefully we can both stay out this year.
Yeah, thanks, Ben, for that. When I was listening there, he mentioned, since we last played each other, they've only won 2 matches, and I thought, God, that's that's bad. And then I actually went through our own record since we last played Crawley, and we've only won 2 matches as well, which was Walsall away and Tranmere away. So, yeah, but like he says, we do, bar the. I think I'm just going back with the information I've got in front of me back to 2021. We have a pretty decent record against Crawley at home. Lots of changes there, Dave. Lots for them to think about and to try and get right. How do we go into this? It does feel like a must win, doesn't it?
It does, and I think it is a must-win game. I think normally I say that they're not must-wins, but they're must-not loses. But I think we've got to win this one, both in terms of keeping the gap between us and the dreaded dotted line at a reasonable distance, but also just to cheer everyone up. We haven't won at Holker Street since September. Like, it's a long time, and when you're trying to persuade people to part with 20 odd quid to come to Holker Street and stand in the cold and the wind, you've got to give them something to shout about. So a decent home win will be a good start. And I think your man there mentioned a few of the players that would come back or look likely to come back, and I'm a big fan of Crawley's recruitment philosophy. I think anyone who follows me on X knows that I'm a big fan of bringing old players home, and that's basically what they've done. They've just gone through their most recent promotion side and seen who's available and thought, yeah, let's get the band back together. I mean, the game down at Crawley, that was actually the last game that I saw us win, because I missed both Walsall and Tranmere. So I've got particularly fond memories of that day. But even then, they hit the post in the first half, and there was a scramble right at the end where we just kept them out. So it wasn't, we deserved the win, but it wasn't exactly 100% convincing. So I always say every team in League Two's got a couple of players who, on their day, can cause you trouble, whether it's a set piece, whether it's an individual bit of magic. They've got Harry McCurdy up front, who I think's had a bit of a quiet season so far this season, but again, he's got that housery about himself that he might pull something out and enrage the popular side before put him on in top bins from 30 yards or something. So we've got to be on it. We've got to be, the best version of ourselves, to use a Pete Wildism. But yeah, if we defend properly, and if we kind of, Fletcher or whoever else manages to notch, then we've got to be looking to win this game. Got to be.
Yeah, because at home recently, Burns, there has been some good performances. Certainly over that interim period, Salford was a good performance. Even Cheltenham to some extent. It just hasn't seemed to have been going right for us. How are you feeling going into Saturday?
Well, like I say, I'm always optimistic and I'm always confident, and I do, as you well know, I'm a man of stats, not like XG or out like that, but just general sort of probabilities. It's got to balance out a bit, hasn't it? You reference those two games there, and you think, in an alternate universe, that game's gone very differently against Tranmere or against Salford. So I think there's potential that our luck may turn. Now, the pessimistic part of me, when I'm stood on the pop side, I might think it'll be just our luck that those 10 signings all gel miraculously on the day and we get absolutely walloped. So I sincerely hope that don't happen. I feel like I know all the squad really well after that intro. He did a really good breakdown there of every single person that they seem to have on the roster, didn't he? Great voice as well, by the way. Bloody hell, he needs to get into like local radio or something. I
think he's a bit of a media man.
Is he? Yeah, God, I'm so jealous having this sort of monotone, drone, Banner accent to hear something like that. So yeah, I'm quietly confident about Saturday. Kick up the backside after Crewe, new striker in. I do think we need to do something at the back, and people need to switch on. So yeah, like you said, David, it's a must win, and I think we should go for it.
But as a stats man, do you believe in that things turn around and all kind of runs come to an end? Or I suppose I'm more of the pessimistic side of it, that thinks that if a Barrow team is a bad team, then they'll just carry on losing, and it's the law of averages stops somewhere on the A590, and we just we'll just carry on in a bad rut. Yeah,
well, yeah, I think it's all about the inputs to your probabilistic model and then the output that you get, and I think and that is probably the a pessimistic view versus an optimistic view. I think the inputs, i.e. the players and their capabilities, deserve statistically, probabilistically, a greater output than they've had today. Now that is entirely subjective, isn't it? But I do truly believe it. I do think those games are good examples of that, where you look at it and just go like, bloody hell, how has that happened? And we've got enough individual elements that should constitute to a greater positive outcome. So yeah, I probably am more on the other side of that modelling fence. So we'll see on Saturday.
I like that, Burns. I have no idea what any of that means, but it sounds good to me. It certainly sounds better than Dave's league world. But just actually talking stats and XG, I noticed last night there was a brilliant XG story coming out of West Brom versus Norwich, because West Brom finished the game on a higher XG than Norwich, but Norwich won 5-0. So it wasn't a good night for the XG boys there. I'm assuming, Dave, Danny Rose goes straight in.
If he's fit, yeah, he does. Yeah, absolutely.
And then, as you said before, I mean, Fletcher's earned his place in that squad. It's got to be hopefully the genesis of something that could be rather beautiful between them two, the young, innocent Fletcher and the older, wise shithousery of Danny Rose. It could be a lot to go out there in Beans, I'm sure. But yeah, I think on the whole, I don't know. I'm not feeling bleak. Crawley in such a difficult situation themselves, and it seems like if we just kind of got together with Crawley fans for a couple of hours before the game and we could just drown our sorrows, couldn't we? Because it seems like our seasons haven't been too too dissimilar, with a little bit of January optimism brought in by some new faces. So, but that league table now, Dave, is getting a little bit concerning. Especially if worst comes to worst this Saturday and we do lose, that would, bring Crawley within, we're on 24, they're on 19, so they're 5 points behind us. One of the things that's kind of been saving our season so far is the teams below us struggling. Some good news this weekend on that front is Bristol Rovers away at Salford, Shrewsbury away at MK Dons, Harrogate, I'm not too sure, but yeah, we keep seeing to getting rescued, Dave, by them, by other results really, and yeah, we certainly don't want that to change this Saturday.
Yeah, and we've got to make our own look to a certain extent. We can't just keep relying on the fact that Newport and Harrogate, keep losing as well. At some point, we've got to keep our part of the bargain and put some points on the board. So a home game against the team, there's not that many teams that are below us. So, we've got to take advantage of the games that we've got against one that is, on the face of it, more of a struggle than us. Yeah, I must admit, I think I said it the other week. On my flash scores, I've got us and the teams below us. I've kind of written off the rest of the league table for now. The promotion teams can look after themselves. I'm not really interested in what they do. Hopefully, we can get rid of MK Dons because they're just annoying, aren't they? And some of those teams up there. And we've just got to win that mini league. We've just got to come, top of that mini league and keep ourselves away from danger.
Is that the old Dave Bayliss mini league?
Do you know, I was looking at our fixtures the other day, and I think it was March into April. We've got a pretty tough run of fixtures, so my fingernails are going to be chewed to the quick, I think, at some point this season. But hopefully starting on Saturday, because I'll believe the statistical and mathematical genius of our friend here that it's going to turn round at some point. We can't go the whole season without another home win, surely.
Oh, again, Mick McCarthy just pops up in my head there. Yeah, I think this is the point now where it starts to get serious in a sense. What kind of worries me a little bit is it doesn't seem like it's going to take much for even Newport or Harrogate just to kind of lift themselves out of it a little bit. They seem to have bridged a bit of a gap there at the moment. So yeah, it's getting pretty serious. So a win could certainly help us ahead of a tough game against Oldham on a Tuesday night. So I think that's pretty much it from that. Just before we go into any other business, Dave, just give us a little bit of a kind of injury update, because quite a bit came out on that this week. Then I mentioned Gordon before. Looks like 4 weeks. You've had a bit of news as well. Basically, you're listening to what the manager's saying after games and stuff, unlike your podcast host.
Got the inside scoop.
Yeah, so I think MJ Williams did one of these kind of in-training injuries that always look innocuous, but I think this is 10 to 12 weeks he's out for. Josh Gordon's out for a good spell. I think Hemmings and Walker are probably, at least a month away. I think he says, is it Sam Foley's the closest to coming back? And if you think that Sam Foley's the closest to getting back, and the kind of the extent of the injury he's had and the rehab time that he's had, it says a lot for the rest of them, doesn't it? Really. But yeah, I mean, maybe we need to cut them a bit of slack. I think on Saturday they probably didn't plan on going into the game without a recognised striker, or with Fletcher, our new recognised striker, leading the line. And losing an experienced head like Williams probably wasn't ideal either. So yeah, it's one of them, and it's a good job. It's a good job that we've got the transfer window open, and as I said before, the kind of the owners and the board are once again dipping their hands into their collective pockets and backing the manager, whether it's with loans or permanent signings. I'm sure if we need extra reinforcements, then they will arrive in some way, shape or form, and whether they stay fit, who knows? Because we've got a bit of a checkered record in that respect this season. But yeah, it's not great, is it, when you've got people that are not looking to come back until Easter time or there or thereabouts.
Yeah, because Josh Gordon's on loan to the end of the season, isn't he? From what so that's be interesting to see what happens there. I mean, we're having this discussion as well, Burnsy, because we do have a pretty decent record of bringing a striker in January who does go on to contribute well to the rest of the season. Obviously, Danny Rose has come in now, seems like a decent signing. We've had Presley, Cole Stockton, Smith, I think came in from Bradford off the top of my head. So it does change significantly our striker options when you think of, it's Gordon as our, kind of first name striker at the moment. We start to bring Danny Rose in. It doesn't seem so bad then having kind of Gordon, Fletcher and Rose compared to what we had before.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, we have done well. It's like it's the right time for us, that isn't it, to get these type of players, because they need a game. Someone wants them off the books. They come to us, put themselves in the shop window, and then inevitably they clear off. So everyone's happy, albeit we'd have loved to have kept. Certainly the last 2 seasons worth of strikers, but I agree. I think bringing her in, like you said at the start, Dave, it's about as good as you could ask for, really, isn't it? And whilst Gordon's out for a little bit, I never liked Josh Gordon on his own either. Runs his socks off, does really well, but he's not a lone striker. So having that balance between a number of players, I think, just gives us a lot more. And yeah, I do hope we play a bit more attacking, go for it in these home games, a little bit more exciting. It's our first home game under the new manager. It's a good opportunity to make a stamp and show a difference from the wing era, which wasn't the most exciting. I want to come back to MJ Williams as well, actually, Dave. We would have been a totally different side with him in it on Saturday, I would say. You look at a number of moments where we break down in the game, he's generally commanding someone to get there, or he's there himself. Do you know what I mean? We can't underestimate how big of a loss he is, and him being out for that period, this period now pivotal is, I think, is it's gutting for me.
Yeah, sometimes I do worry about Raglan a little bit. As good as a player I think he is, he can seem quite quiet sometimes. And certainly not as commanding as a player. You just mentioned, and then the patio has been screaming out the name of Cole Stockton, hasn't it, Dave? Is there any more insight on that? Could we bring another one in?
We could. There are. The rumour mill is suggesting that deal is not completely dead. I know he was named on the bench for Salford in the FA Cup the other night, but that was maybe a case of getting them through that cup game, and then they can reassess ahead of getting back to league action. But I think there is more movement in terms of players coming in up front, and I think if the manager identifies that he needs another defender, whether it's a full-back to give him the option to change shape, or to keep the wing-backs but have a more defensive wing-back and use Whitfield elsewhere, I don't know. But I certainly don't think that we're done. Can I just say, by the way, that I've been slightly miserable on this podcast and slightly pessimistic, but we're recording this on Wednesday night, and I'm just looking at my phone, and I've seen that Morecambe have got beat and Carlisle have got beat, so get it right up them. That'll do me.
There we go. We'll start a podcast all over again with a new Dave. And also, Dave, I will bookend this podcast by saying you got the Cheshire Inn all wrong, by the way. That was a wonderful place. When it Burns, we were in out like pigs in shit in that place. It was like being in the Derby or something, wasn't it? Music was pumping, pints of Carlin. It was, what an establishment.
Yeah, what an experience! Yeah, everything from Venga Boys to some sort of like Russian Donk remix. It was absolutely fantastic. You need to get yourself there next time, Dave.
Yeah, it's getting too snobby in your old age. Let's just close out then with any other business. There's a Q&A Friday. Dave, are you there, or are you kind of going to be dialing? Is it being YouTubed again? It was like it was last time.
No, I don't think they're going to do any coverage on the social media. Someone pointed that out this afternoon, that they're not going to live stream it or even live tweet it. I don't think so. It's going to be, a case of everyone sign an NDA on the way in, and we'll hear all the truth and the gory stories from throughout the season. But it's the manager, it's Ian Wood, it's Fraser Stewart, obviously the trust man on the board. So it's like a lot of these things. People have kind of stories and rumours that they hear, and there's really no harm in turning up to these sort of things and just putting your hand up and asking a question. Whether you believe the answer or whether you think the answer is good enough or not, I don't know. I think there'll certainly be questions to ask about kind of the recruitment in the summer. If you look at the goal scoring and injury records of the likes of Cameron, Walker, and Hemmings, how did we arrive at those three as our kind of central striking options? And again, just picking up on that point before, I'd be interested to know, not as a criticism or anything like that, but the difference between the summer window and the January window. Is the January window our prime kind of shopping time? Because we do seem to pick up better players in the January than we do in the summer. So is that a case of players have got fewer options, or it's more about playing for the second half of the season, or, rather than letting your contract run out with a few months to go and you're worried about paying the mortgage for the next year and a half or whatever it is. So, I'd be interested in that. And the other thing I might stick my hand up about is, I'm not sure, was the FC United training ground, was that a fixed contract that we signed with them? Is that up this summer? Are we potentially on the move, maybe? Because, again, the Jungle Drums have suggested that we're moving a bit further up the M6. Maybe not quite as far as the Peninsula, but, that's one of the many, many stories that are flying around. There's always something that's flying around in the ether in the world of Barrow AFC, isn't there?
Yeah, maybe it's me. I've been hanging around FC United too much since Barrow moved in, and they're packing up and moving as far away as they possibly can. Burnsy, what's the kind of big questions for you'd like to kind of hear out from the Q&A?
Probably just whether Ian Wood's into Pitbull, I think. That's what I'd open with. Gauge the man that he is.
Yeah, if anybody's there and can ask that question on your behalf.
Yeah, I'm not there, unfortunately, but I imagine he is. I mean, who isn't? So, I think, in all seriousness, it's a topic we spoke about actually in that lovely pub in Wigan, maybe the Swan, I forget, but I'd be really keen to understand what the club, the council and BA are doing. I mean, there's a lot going on. Team Barra, 20 million a year, massive development in the yard, the marina, kicking off now that contracts looks to have been awarded. What can we do as a club to leverage that and to leverage the fan base, with more people coming into the area? So I'd be really keen to understand that and understand what more could be done to build those links and capitalise on I sound really optimistic on this, but what is the most exciting time in the town's history for generations? Do you know what I mean? And there's a massive potential there for the club. So yeah, I'd love to hear him answer that and then understand, and then say, if needed, and Ian, give us a shout, mate. I'll have a crack with a few people in the yard.
Yeah, all legit as well. It's we don't do Steve Evans style brown envelopes here, so do get in touch. We're not just a bunch of idiots talking nonsense on a Barrow Soccer podcast. We could contribute and do our bit. Then also quickly, there is the event on Saturday before the Crawley game, which is organised by Barrow 125, which is the amazing kind of antiques roadshow style event where you can bring along all of your kind of Barrow memorabilia, dive into the loft or, wherever you've stored away that programme from 1956 or whatever. Just bring it along, grab yourself a pint and just chat about the wonderful history of this football club. Dave, you've been doing some of that yourself, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got some old shirts and a couple of old pin badges and a few other bits and bobs, and there's been a few pictures flying around of kind of garments that might be on show. Someone's got a one from the 88-89 title winning season with the Barrow Council logo across the front with half the letters missing, and the BG Sports sponsored kit, which was the white with the blue stripe. And I'm sure there's a few in the promotional advert that Punks very kindly did, which was excellent, the Antiques Roadshow, and you're kind of looking at programmes against Chelsea and some of the old games and that sort of thing. So I'm sure there'll be quite a lot of things that'll interest. Well, I'd like to think supporters of all ages. It's not just kind of middle-aged blokes like me that get excited about this sort of thing. I'd like to think that all ages are kind of interested in the history of the club and all that sort of thing. And we weren't always just scratching around in Conference North and that sort of thing. We have got a football league history kind of before that, and it's good to celebrate some of these good things. And every item has a story behind it, and I'm sure it'll prompt discussion and swapping a few stories and all that sort of thing. So yeah, it's I'm looking forward to it. To be honest, yeah, it should be good.
Yeah, get yourself along. That's going to be the crossbar before the Crawley game. So I actually carry around with me in my wallet a lock of Leo Keefe's hair. A curl, so that might be found it on Cornwallis Street. Anyway, so that's enough for that. Please God, let's have a win this weekend and get this season back on track and end this misery and gloom. Dave, thanks as always. Lord of Walney, thank you for your time. It's been brilliant, and we'll see you all next time.